Welcome to this episode of EdTech People, discussing the past, present, and future of working with technology in education.
Welcome to this episode of EdTech People with myself and the main man, Jack, who has started his new role this week, so is incredibly tired of after working hard and getting to meet lots of new people. How's it going, Jack? How's this week been for you?
Matthew, great to be back. Really good. As you know, and many or everyone in theory listening, first week's always really positive, but it's trying to remember who everyone is, saying hi to someone and then introducing yourself and then realizing you introduced yourself to them 3 hours before when you saw them at another point in the day in a different part of the building. Really good, really strong. Psyched, great new team, strong foundations, what we can then take to develop and make even better, etc. So, positive
I've
start.
Noticed more and more that I am being completely useless with people and their names. Was sat in this morning. I had a really interesting experience this morning, actually, where I was delivering a exercise in the box from the NCSE website for a cybersecurity incident for a large charity. So it was really interesting to be involved with, and it's the first time that I've done it. I led it, and it was a really useful experience for me and hopefully the people that are in there as well. And I think if you haven't already, it's well worth listening to our roundtable on cybersecurity to get a bit more detail in it. But I think it's really worthwhile running through one of those exercises with people in a room as well. So that's good. That's a really good start.
It's interesting that you say that as well, Max. We were talking about that only today and yesterday, that it's something we're going to do. I've done before. I think it's really strong. And that's one of the core principles we're going to build into the team now as well, both as a team running them, but then as a wider leadership teams of schools, and then I guess the wider sort of executive team, etc., of the trust, and so on. Naturally, it takes a bit of planning to get, all the way through, but 100% worth it, because everyone thinks they know what to do until it happens, and then it's like...
Even today, there were some things that were thrown up that I thought I hadn't considered, what to do in that situation.
No one's got all the answers, have they? And even if you've been through it before, it's like, you're better placed 100%, but if it happened again, it would probably look very different because, different forms of attack, etc. So completely back that... free. It's a free resource as well, isn't it? So it's like, do it.
Yeah, why pay all that money if you're not gonna do it? And also, this is one of my worst weeks working in education as well. This and the first week in September. So this week actually started up quite a sad time. One of my dogs had to be put to sleep. So that was a pretty rubbishy start on Monday, finding that out on the M40 when I was going for a meeting in London. I think I ended up doing 3 interviews in the car park at a service station. I left at 9. I got to London at 3:30, did 45 minutes training, left London, took 4 hours to come back. So that was one hell of a day. But the reason why I hate this week is, and you'll get this working in IT, is that everybody says, have a nice holiday. Off you pop. I bet you can't wait for your 6 weeks break. And I always remember that, that feeling, and I get it even now, actually not everybody has that 6-week break. And when do you think all the magic happens? And there's these people who are, this is term 6 for them. This is a lot of hard work is about to happen. And then not only that, when they come back, they've probably spent several months planning it. They've got to deliver it. They've got to test it. They've got to do all the other end of year procedures, start of year procedures. And then they're going to come back in September. And it's going to be the busiest, maddest time out with support. Even if you don't do anything over the summer, even if you don't do any projects, it's an incredibly busy time. And it's interesting, for working as an MSP, where last year we moved 21 schools to the cloud, and I personally migrated 13,500 users. My colleague Tom did 21 different Intune configurations and such like. So you can imagine, well, actually, in September, I don't wish to blow my own trumpet, but it's my podcast, so I'm going to. It actually, it was a smooth start and it was nice. It's almost like we've done it a few times before. But do you remember these times? And then when everybody comes back that week in September, and like, did you have a nice holiday? Oh, by the way, all these new devices are nice. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
actually, they haven't just magicked up.
100. I mean, so I flipped that narrative a little bit. Like, so people say it to me, whatever. Like,
Yeah,
I'm probably like thinking about something
past
else as
it.
they're talking to me. But I also get to go skiing a few times when they're stuck in the classroom.
That
Do
is
you know what I
true.
mean?
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
like, or I'll go off and fly off to Porto or wherever I'm going to go and do whatever I'm going to do. And yeah, you guys are in the classroom dealing with the day to day. So
Shakespeare.
yeah, Shakespeare. So yeah, I hear you. I also quite like the point where Monday morning I can chuck my shorts on and no one's going to shout at me for wearing
Yes,
the wrong attire, etc.
I do miss that. I do miss that a lot because obviously it makes no difference. Obviously, we're busy at different times of the year and whatever, but I still have to turn up in full uniform. I still
Well,
have to.
I was gutted yesterday, so I went to one of the schools, and obviously due to the weather, relaxed dress code for the last few weeks or several weeks almost, and I'm sat around the table with the whole SLT team of the school, and they're all in like polo shorts and summer dresses and etc. I'm there in like shirt, tie, trousers, nice
Is he still
shoes.
trying to
It's
impress
not even that.
your
It's like if
first
someone
week?
had told me, I would have rocked up in shorts. It's like, come on, guys. And then it was literally like, oh yeah, we should have told you about this.
Yes, yeah. But I think, yeah, you're right. Actually, is the 6 weeks. I remember previously having times when we'd have barbecues. We would, have a game of bench ball in the gym or something
Yeah,
like that that you'd
yeah.
only get in education. But yeah, interesting. And as you say, it's nice to have those holidays. Although I've got a limited holiday, which
Mm.
basically means you end up taking less than what you're supposed to, because you don't have an amount that you have to take. So, yeah, I think it's a bit of a minoma, that one, that
Mm,
people say
mm.
it. But
That's what they say happens actually with that, isn't it?
yeah,
Mm.
exactly. But so I should probably use it more and do more of what you're doing. Although I don't think there's anywhere to go skiing over the next 6 weeks, is there? So
And I
I'll
don't
probably
think I'm going to
wait.
have time to go skiing, even if I could, and
Oh,
there
my
was.
heart bleeds for you.
I know, I know,
Oh, what was it like to have a busy job?
I
Right,
know.
so
Moving on.
moving on, moving on. And so this is we decided when we started up doing these fortnightly ones that we're actually going to take a break through the
Mm,
summer. So this is our summer ending podcast. There is going to be a couple of exciting ones during the holidays. So we've got Tim Levy, who is the MD of Cora, who owns Smoothall, and actually today I've confirmed that they've now been completed merger acquisition, have been acquired by a larger company whose name forgets me, but he lives over in Australia and he has been instrumental over there in putting advice and questioning, and actually I believe he left the process of the ban over there for social media under 16s, which we know is happening. Well, it's been raised as possibility of happening in the UK. It was interesting this week that in the news it talked around um, uh, bedtime. Like between 16 and 18, there's going to be a cut-off time for them accessing stuff for YouTube and such like that. So not banned in the day, but there is a switch off. And so that'll be really exciting. That'll be an hour-long interview with him. We've also got Stacey Dukes, who is an incredible deputy head teacher that I've worked with through the schools that she's been at Exeter and through Nason. And she is a really big advocate of inclusivity and accessibility in education. So that'll be really good hours chat with her as well. So we're going to have some podcasts on that you can download and take on holiday with you, and we'll be able to listen to those as soon as we sorted out timings for them, because obviously with the Australian
mm,
clocks, and I believe Tim was over in Boston next week, and it's just marrying at those times. But leading on from the what we was talking about the social media ban coming up. We've had Keeping Children Safe in Education released this week, the 2026 version. And so this has been, over the last few years, we've seen quite a big increase in the amount of impact this has on technology in schools, and certainly now with AI as well, and a lot of things feed into it now. And so we've touched on the subject before, for sure, but I think it is really key. And even I put a post out on LinkedIn the other day. I'm still staggered by the amount of schools that I'm going to that don't know what they have, or don't know what they've got, what it can do. The amount of people who have got Smoothle, Senso, uh, Classroom.cloud who don't know it integrates with CPOMs or My Concern, for example, so they're not using those effectively. I had a school the other day with Securely, which I've not come across before, but it seems to do things in a completely different way to
Mm,
others, in terms of scanning rather than taking screenshots. But people aren't getting the message, in my opinion, about how important this stuff is. And I think, when we're looking at AI, we're looking at mental health, we're looking at all AI generated content. These are all biggest, big things to be worried
mm,
about at the moment. Deep fakes, and filter monitors where you have a level of protection.
agreed.
So just wondering what your thoughts are on it, Jack. Have you found the same over your time in Edu?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you've just listed probably 4 or 5 of the main platforms there. With, there's also, I think, Senso, Lightspeed, et cetera, et cetera. And I think they all probably do filtering and monitoring in different ways, right? So
Yes.
down from the technology and how that works, the configuration from our point of view and how we make things work, to the actual core safeguarding element and what they deem as to be filtering and monitoring. Certainly, I think that monitoring and alert thing, different platforms are using almost different contextual awareness on what they deem should and shouldn't be flagged, and have different, what would you say, different logic behind is that alert, how they grade the alerts.
Mm, mm.
And I think that's really interesting, because one of the things I've seen, Matt, certainly in my various years in education, is like every DSL/safeguarding team has a different opinion on
Mm,
what an alert they care about is. As for example, we're both familiar with Smoothle, certainly the monitor element, and you've got like level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And what category do Smoothle sets some defaults, what it thinks are primary and secondary, but you can obviously then go and change it depending on your school's needs. But how are we getting to those defaults, for example? Are they too high in terms of a threshold, too low in threshold? Everyone's got different opinions, and that's the challenge, isn't it? It's bridging that gap between what the platform is defaulted to, and understanding why, and then making sure that it meets the need of the school. And I think that's the hard part, isn't it? Bridging that divide sometimes between the technology, the use case, and then the teams who are using it. Um,
y-
and yeah.
Absolutely. And I think you touched on there a couple of interesting points. The first point is like the school context, like
Mm,
knowing what so many kids is in the school. So my step lad goes to alternative provision, and I imagine what they catch on there is very, very different to the Catholic middle school that I used to work in there. And there's some things that they'll let slide, and some things that actually really do matter. I think there's a lot of confusion between what's poor behaviour and what is a safeguarding alert, for sure, and the fact that people think that the safeguarding monitoring software should only be going to DSLs, because it captures far more than safeguarding alerts. And so
and it's
for me,
that's great there. So what are we using it for? Are we using it just for a safeguarding element? Are we using it for a behavior management? Are we using it for a combination of both? And then
yeah,
it's like, okay, so how does the technology make sure the right alerts go to the right people?
yeah, exactly. And what I've been focusing on recently when I've been implementing, say, Concero are Smoothall partners,
Hmm.
accredited partners, the only ones in the UK. And I've been implementing a lot of Smoothall Monitor
Hmm.
recently. And what I really like about it is that us as techs can't even see the captures because IT people shouldn't be your safeguarding
Agreed.
looking on that. They're not trained in it unless they're trained and paid for being a DSL. Then they shouldn't be looking at those captures anyway. And as you say, they have assisted monitoring built in, and so they will review the captures. But that's not meaning that the school shouldn't review them as well. Are they highlighting safeguarding or behaviour or both? I think is really, really key.
Yeah,
And
agreed.
it's only fair as well that actually you're clear with the users of the system what you're looking for. Because if you deployed that in any other workplace where there's no students, you've got to be careful about what you're going to pick up, what you're going to see, and how you're then going to use that as evidence. And obviously,
True.
a school is a workplace, and this software is on staff
Yeah,
devices.
we're in
So
the business of education, aren't we? Like, that's the crux of it.
yeah,
People don't like that term, but the reality of it is we're just a business, but our core client base are students.
so there's no reason why uh, staff shouldn't be monitored in even in a business and in retail like they are in
Yeah,
education.
yeah,
But you'd always be clear with people that that's what's happening. And
exactly. This is part of the
are we that
AUP.
clear for students? Does anybody talk? Obviously, they find out when somebody comes and shows them a picture of what they've
Yeah,
done wrong.
I mean,
But
at DRB, like, you'd hit space to unlock and get to username password, and before that, it came up with a message, an Intune policy
you're
just
being
pushed out.
monitored.
Welcome to X, it's your responsibility to X, Y, and Z, FYI. All devices are filtered and monitored, etc., etc.
Yeah.
I mean, does anyone ever read that? Who knows? But
No.
it's that element of having the text there, isn't it?
Yes.
And
So
I think
people can't come back
no,
and moan that you didn't tell them.
absolutely. And actually, you build it into your onboarding process for
Yes.
staff. You build it into your yearly AUPs, etc., etc. And I think that leads quite nicely on to probably the updates from KCSIE.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. You is there anything that stood out to you in terms of what it's come into at all? Or?
In true podcast season 6 fashion, I've asked my mate Claude to give me
I thought that's what you were typing away at.
Yeah, the high level the high level changes for filtering and monitoring specifically.
Yeah.
So it's given me a load of points. I'm going to take a few of my core ones away. So for example, mandatory annual review. Previously, I think the wording was just regular, according to Claude. So it seems like they've changed from the wording from last year, where it was regular reviews, to you must have a mandatory annual review of filtering, monitoring, etc., and the effectiveness of it.
That's an interesting one because that's tied into the DFE technology standards, so it's been in there
Exactly.
for a while, and it doesn't happen. So one of the things on the system that I've built for Coursera recently is every time a technician goes to a site, it does 3 checks: filtering, monitoring, and backups, and reports them back in. Now, on the filtering checks, this was because their guidance was there to regularly check it, but then it's not happening in schools anywhere, and it needs to. And it's interesting here, it's not just reviewing if it works or not, it's reviewing the effectiveness.
And
Now,
I think that's the key word, isn't it?
Yeah, that effectiveness. Like, is it picking up everything? Is it picking up too much? These, is it covering every device? And I think I like the wording of that term, using the term effectiveness onto it. And obviously it covers filtering and monitoring. And it says on school devices as well. So some clarity there, because before there's been some confusion about, what do you do on BYOD devices if students are bringing them in. So it's any school devices. And obviously that has to be at home as well as in school as well.
And we don't like BYOD, do we, Matt?
We don't like BYOD, no.
But let's not get bogged down in the BYOD.
No, I like BYDs, which is my car, but I do not like BYOD. What else have we got in there, Jack?
So named accountability at SLT level, not just IT. And I think this is a really important one, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
I think this is common sense, right? We've said this for years and years and years. It's like, it's not IT's responsibility. So accountability and responsibility are two different things, and I think people often get them mixed. But like, from an IT perspective, it's honest to make sure the systems do what they do, in the sense of, we are deploying a system, it's getting to the end user devices, and it's reporting back. And that's, in my opinion, where it stops. Then like you said before, Smoothwall does a great job at separating, from a monitor point of view, safeguarding and IT contacts. That works really well. Now, it's, the extract here says, it's got it so schools need to have a named accountable member of the SLT level, a senior leadership team, um, and that must be supported by a designated safeguarding lead. So it's probably going to be a DSL on the SLT team. As we know, sometimes not all DSLs are SLT, but normally there's one. So naturally, every SLT I've probably come across has already got the right person on that team, just to take that accountability. And it's not just sitting with IT or the outsourced provider. So I think where, for example, again, we keep using Smoothwall, but it's probably the one we're most familiar with, from a monitoring point of view, certainly for me, is, you get that human intervention where it deems needed. And I wonder if they've made this specification because schools are relying on that human intervention from the company for when it matters, as opposed to reviewing it themselves. Like, that shouldn't be the only measure. You should always be on, aware of what's going on. That
Yeah,
would be my potential take from that reason.
I agree. The schools know the context better than anybody. So something that looks, you know, if you're a company like Smooth or Senso do it as well, but it's not included for free. And you've got and so does Classroom.cloud. These
Mm.
ones, they do have people monitoring them, but they're not going to get the context of that school. They're not going to know who these people are and what they were doing. So you can't rely just on them at all. And does it say anything around governance though? Because we're both governors or trustees or
Mm.
whatever
Yeah,
of these
yeah.
things. Is there a requirement for them?
So I've got nothing here, and I did read it the other day in more detail, but my brain is kind of not working on this Friday
Yeah.
evening at this point.
Well, I
Um,
think it falls into the safeguarding governance role anyway, which you're
agreed,
required to
agreed.
have. Um,
It covers a lot around, as we've talked around, that DSL responsibility that had been formalised in job descriptions. This is one that I quite like. Staff training must cover filtering and monitoring explicitly.
Interesting.
My partner
Okay.
came home the other day and was like, first day of September, they've already been told, because of the changes in the KCSIE, to prepare for quite an extensive update from a time, in staff briefing, etc., which I thought was quite impressive. So obviously that's a school that's took the guidance, seen the changes, and already gone, okay, this is some big changes. And we've only just talked about the changes from a site,
IT
filter and
point of view.
monitoring.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's great to see that some schools are already clearly putting
Yeah,
plans
I
in
can
place.
only imagine I'm going to get a few phone calls before the start of term then to come and
Mm.
deliver some
Mm.
training on it, which is fine. I'd rather do it than not do it because I want to make sure that these systems are actually used on there. Interestingly, I don't know if your mate Claude has come up with the information around deepfakes, where they've now specified that they're child-on-child abuse.
So
Um,
my mate Claude has come up with a point around AI and how that comes into fold of risk categories, etc.
mm.
But I've asked for a very specific high level overview. So would you like
Yeah,
to go
so
into that?
yeah, definitely. This is from Schools Week, actually. It says
Mm.
the draft guidance contains updated categories of child-on-child abuse to reflect technological advances. This includes consensual and non-consensual sharing of self-generated intimate images and/or videos, including those generated using AI, for example, deepfakes. It adds misogyny is a
Mhm.
form of harmful sexual behavior as well as sexual
Mhm.
violence and harassment. And interestingly, explicitly states that upskirting is a criminal offence, which we know because it's a law there. Now, obviously, the first bit of that is very much related to technology using AI to do it. The second bit around misogyny and around upskirting, these are things that you use technology normally to do.
Mm.
There's a lot of people who hide behind on keyboard warriors delivering these kind of harmful abuse to people, or learning, from people who are putting up videos in hating women and all the stuff that they've talked around about males and what
Hmm.
we're how we're younger males are being led to treat females. And
Yeah,
then you've also got around this upskirting. Now this is an interesting one because this is one I always point out with iPads. Now, as you well know, I'm not a fan of iPads in education. There's no way that they are compatible with this. There's just no actual way, but I'm not going to get on my soapbox again. It's not that I hate iPads. It's not that I don't think there's some fantastic tools on them. I just don't think they meet KCSIE to be used all the time. And
agreed.
I'd be really interested in speaking to a school that's gone fully iPad. Now, the Arthur Terry Learning Partnership, which has gone bankrupt effectively because they brought everybody an
So
iPad.
and didn't they have to give them all back? That's the last thing I heard. I'd love someone to tell.
Yeah,
Is
they were
that true or
leased.
not? They were leased,
They,
and I
yeah,
heard
yeah,
that they've now been given all back. Now I don't know
yeah.
if that's true or not,
No,
but
I believe I heard the same, and
okay,
it was to do with the lease. But I'd love to hear the how somebody there has justified how they can give those devices, and a kid can take them home and not be monitored on them. Yes, you can filter the internet if they use a specific browser, but they can't be monitored in other things. And one of the areas why I'm highlighting here is this upskirting. There is no way that you'd be able to know what people are taking pictures of on an iPad proactively. There's just no way, you know,
and that's down to how Apple have built their.
designed
It's
it. Yeah,
almost like Apple haven't gone out their way to specifically design it. So if it's used like this, then we can't. It's more Apple's security principles in this walled garden of we believe in privacy, blah blah blah. And there's a
I
film, I
get
think
it.
it's called The Circle. It's
Yes, I
got
saw it with Emma Watson in it.
That's the one. And actually, every
Yeah,
time I watched that, I've watched it a couple of times. I'm like, that's Google. It's Apple. I think it's meant to be
yeah,
literally
yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah.
It's we care about your privacy, all this sort of stuff. Everything that's end to end encrypted. I've got my tinfoil hat back on here, but is it? What data center is it sitting in? Who's having? Whatever they say, it's like okay. It's almost so. Even though Apple have done the right thing from a technology point of view, that
Yeah,
therefore makes our jobs and colleagues incredibly difficult, almost in fact impossible on an iPad to do it. As you say, we can monitor and filter the app, and we can filter maybe the wider iPad for depending on what else is above that
in
infrastructure
school.
wise in
Yeah,
school.
in
Yeah,
school
in
you can do
school.
that, but you can't do it from home.
Can't do it from home, and as soon as you leave that custom browser and go into a different app on the iPad, we're not monitoring it.
Exactly.
We,
Exactly.
so
And I think that whole point of like the pictures that people can take and view on there, or people can download and view on and keep on their iPads, it's interesting. Again, this is Smoothwall, and it's lucky they sponsor us really. They have a software solution now that will scan your 365 or your Google drives for images that are unsuitable for being on there.
mm.
And I think this is going to be the next area
I think a
that we're going
few
to
are
see
doing that
more.
now. I've been looking at a few different platforms lately,
Yeah,
and I think so. I think Security's got an integration similar, and I also think Lightspeed. But again, like you say, Matt, it's okay. So we're going in the right direction, right? Only on corporate managed devices that are,
yeah,
it,
only on managed devices, which is why BYOD is so bad because it's on
yeah,
managed devices. And I think I always say this is a key example of this. So at Concero, we've rolled out Senso to all of our staff
mm,
devices because we're going into schools.
mhm,
It's very sensible to do so. And uh, one of the things that people have said is that, if they swear or say it's an adult company, but if they do put onto it, they're like, oh, I've been captured. And then I'll notice that they're doing, maybe they've messaged somebody on the phone. I'm like, do you know, actually, if you send a message on Teams on your phone, nobody will ever know if it's got
mm,
a swear word in it or what the content of it is.
mm,
So yes, you can go through the logs, but there's no way you're going to go through everybody's team's logs without a
mm,
reason.
mm.
And because the monitoring is device led, unless you go for the add-in. I think Senso do an add-in for and Classroom.cloud. They do add-ins for Teams within
Yeah.
the Teams app.
Yeah.
Then you can't stop it from happening, and there's no way that you would be aware of it. Now, nothing's foolproof. No filtering has ever been claimed to be something that can solve all your problems, and neither can monitoring. But it's that going back to what you said before and what the guidance says about effectiveness of its systems is so important to understand, and it should be at the forefront of any decisions being made.
Agreed.
If you're deciding to buy a load of equipment, then you should be looking into what the limitations are when it comes to filtering and monitoring.
Completely agree. Completely agree.
It should be front and center of what you're doing, and that includes platforms which are expecting kids to use at home on their own devices. What protection has that got? So many of these sites, even things like Timetable Rockstars or others, you go onto these websites and there's an element of gaming or stuff like that, and then you might be able to post content on there or whatever you can do. Where's the oversight on those?
Agreed.
Because
Agreed.
there isn't any, and that's dangerous.
And this may be where it over the next several years, the landscape shifts. We see the technology embed more in the systems as opposed to a device level. And we might even see the technology or the guidance and policy from government go further than schools. So, wouldn't it be great if we actually saw guidance more specifically around targeting the companies providing the apps that we use, saying, actually, you must provide X,
Well, they've done it with
Y,
AI,
Z.
haven't they?
This
They
is
have
it.
done it with AI. There's guidance out there for AI in education, and I think one of the things this also does is that it states in there around schools being defaulting to a phone-free school, and it's interesting to me that they embrace phone-free schools, but they haven't included in this BYOD free schools.
And then obviously get onto the point around phone-free schools. I've heard people arguing we can't use phones for MFA, for example. But there is actually a caveat in the guidance that says phones can be used for multi-factor authentication along with a couple of other things. Yeah.
But if you again,
but I agree with you. I agree with that the point around the BYOD element. But then you look at when it goes well and the positives it brings, it's like a case of improving outcomes, teaching and learning, safeguarding, etc. But it's how do we guarantee implement it in the right way? And I think it's that off-site point, isn't it? So we can filter off-site often, we can monitor off-site depending again with the right systems. But when it's a BYOD device, how are we deploying said monitoring and filtering to someone's? And even if they say, "Oh, you can do," should you from a, so I can deploy X software.
Device.
So
and it's not licensed for it, and and you don't know. Also, you don't know what's on the device before you get.
And who else uses the device? In COVID, we saw it all the time, didn't we? All these DFE devices and those 2-3 a.m. alerts that were coming through. And a lot of the time, it wasn't Jimmy from Year 6 who was searching for what it was. It was other members in the family, etc.
Yeah,
I think everyone I know in IT is all seen during COVID those late night, midnight alerts that weren't. I say IT, we've all in the safeguarding during that period. I think every school saw something from that point of view.
Oh, well, that's because we used to see parents going on and logging on to social media and such for it, because we're talking a few years ago now where home filtering was nowhere near as advanced as what it is now.
And when it was rolled out, it was rolled out in the space of a week because we had very little time to go, oh, by the way, you're not allowed to leave your house. Oh, by the way, here's a load of laptops that were part of a pyramid scheme and definitely not to the right spec. Oh, and you've still got to maintain all those controls. And I think we saw, didn't we? A lot of schools just got devices out to users to give them the devices, not filtered, not monitored, and then actually retrospectively were rolling out updates, etc., if a lot of schools hadn't even gone Intune at that point, so it's like, did they even have the ability? The schools that were using Intune devices had that ability to retrospectively roll out changes from safeguarding, etc.
It's what
But
I
yeah,
really, one of the big impacts on this for me going forward, and I was speaking to a colleague yesterday on a car journey around this, is that um, the whole one-to-one device argument that we've talked about before. I think we talked about in the previous episode, where it was originally, parental contributions is the only way to do it. I I've now I now believe. I was going to say I think strongly, but you can't. I think strongly. So I'm almost at the point where I'm strongly believing that student contribution schemes are unfair
mm,
and shouldn't be part of it
mm,
because parents pay tax for
mm,
education. And I think these tools are going to, if ingrained properly, will be a core part of the provision of education. So therefore, that should be funded through general taxation. And that means that these devices are managed and owned by the schools, and so can have all this safeguarding and filtering and monitoring on it. And some people try and say, well, BYOD means that they can bring their devices, and there's a whole question about equitable and equal use and access to technology with it, but it boils down to that bottom line of these devices can't go and make the impact that they need unless they're managed by the institution that is
agreed,
delivering it,
agreed.
and therefore the future is schools buying year sets of devices and
If
managing
needed,
them to make an
if they
impact.
even need them, if they even need one-to-one. But I
Do you
think
not
that
think they do? Do you not think it's? What's your thoughts on it?
I think if it's implemented properly with the right teams and the right people, it can be really powerful. But I don't think we have that ability in every single school. I think
No.
like the level of where you see it done successfully, and I think it's done successfully less than it is than more. I think you see like schools have got budget or dedicated people, or it's just the culture of that school. We put a lot of time and effort into X, Y, and Z, and you go, yeah, fair, fine. But I think if you had that same school landed in a complete, in a different area, you wouldn't be able to do that because you're faced with a whole set of problems. We know every school has got challenges around safeguarding, behaviour management, etc. But we know we could put two very different locations. Little tiny village school in the middle of nowhere is going to have a very different set of problems and time than a school in a city, Birmingham, Coventry, Wolverhampton, very different challenges. So the little village school, for example, has more time to potentially put into different areas. I'm not saying it's not possible in a city, etc. It's been done, but it's again time,
Different challenges.
commitment, different challenges. It comes
Uh,
down to the people as well, right? So
yes,
if
it
you could
does,
be in a
100%.
city in the quote unquote worst school in the country and have the most successful one-to-one
Oh,
program,
because there's certainly
if the people,
opportunity.
absolutely, but it
Yeah,
takes the people, right? So if you've got the
yeah,
right people backing it, fine. But often those right people have to focus on other challenges. So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's not that it's impossible. It's just
Difficult still to
it's
get to that
difficult.
point.
It's
I
difficult.
think as well, and I do think it's a shame, and it's something that I am kind of making a bit of a personal push on. So the first is taking iPads out of education. That's my first push. My second push is to remove the need for printers and copiers in schools completely.
Right. Can I tell you what the bane of my existence has been? To my new team
Yes, but don't let me
now.
forget my next point.
Okay, no, you
So,
go, you go, you go.
and then we'll come back to
Do
yours.
it,
This,
do it.
okay, because I've already forgotten. No, my third point is that the devices can make such an impact in those schools which probably will never be able to achieve it.
Mm,
And
yeah.
that is, those life chances those devices can give to them are phenomenal. And I think it's a real shame that that is not being pushed further. And I also think it's a shame that when it was there in COVID, when we had a real opportunity for technology to become embedded and be core, it's gone dead afterwards,
Yeah.
to the point
Yeah.
where schools are still using these cheap COVID crap machines that they got given and thinking that's okay. My last point on that before we get to your printer ways, because I can't wait to hear that story, but there is the fact that what comes first, devices or teaching teachers how to teach using the technology and students how to learn with the technology? My thought on that is that students already know how to learn using technology. They're already researching stuff, they're already using it. It's the teachers that we need to get ready to teach it. And you've got to have the devices there to make it effective. So if you're sat on the fence for it because you're like, well, our teachers won't be able to teach using that technology, then my message to you is make it so. Give them the training, give them the devices, see the impact, because there is nothing else that a 250 quid Chromebook, can achieve that other things can achieve per pupil for the time that they're there. There is nothing for it, whether it's making stuff accessible, whether it's for accessible from a user point of view, or accessible in terms of what the student can go and research and achieve that they never had those chances before. And that is my soapbox of the day. That I think it's so important. It's kind of why I do what I do, because I believe in that so much. One thing that I don't do anything for is printers. So tell me
Well,
this
what I will say,
situation.
I think everything you've just said there is brilliant. And one point you briefly touched on there, I think is, and it saddens me deeply, is how during COVID, the education, we elevated technology, we did loads of great stuff, we were funded for migrations, tech, all this stuff. And then so many schools have gone so far backwards, almost pre-COVID vibes. And that saddens me deeply, but conversation for season 7, maybe. Yeah, I was just joking with my new team at Paxton and printing, debating my existence. I hate it, don't want to go anywhere near it. Literally 2 minutes later, I had Paxton issues, printing issues. And it's like, I mean, technically, this is my team's problem now. But my leadership style isn't to walk away from a problem and leave people to. So it's like, it's like, okay, cool. Let me show you what you need to do to fix this. So now next time I can walk away and you guys can.
Yeah.
But printers, man, they can't be trusted. That printers will become AI, and that will be like Skynet or the Cylons from Battlestar. And I ain't ready for that. Like, I won't survive that. I'll be the first to die in that sort of uprising. I ain't gonna lie to you.
I don't know what those things are, but they sound
you don't want to
terrible.
know. You know what a Terminator is.
I know what a Terminator
is.
It's
Skynet is the thing that created. Yeah. So Skynet's the AI system, whatever it was, and Battlestar Galactica is the Cylons that took over humanity. Same concept, really. All AI driven.
People say that people work in IT are geeks. I don't personally.
I mean,
understand.
I run ultra marathons, so I think that balances it out. Anyway, on that note, I think we're conscious of time. I think it's, my missus is downstairs and probably waiting for me to come and do something. So I think
we're an Indian on the way.
Look at that. So
for the evening and a beer. So
and I've also got a dog I can hear having head loss as well.
Yes. Well, you enjoy that dog, and we'll be back in September. I think the plan is, we haven't actually talked about this in true podcast style. We plan as we do the episodes, but that's cool. Is that we may well try and do one the week before everybody comes back, last week of the holidays, and then that means that we don't have to do the one the first week back, where it's going to be guaranteed that Jack and I will not have the time to do one, and then we'll come back in the second week of September and start them on. And we're going to carry on doing these fortnightly ones. They're getting a really good watching figures and listening figures, so that's really, really cool. But we are still open for doing the one-to-one ones, as we said, and round tables. So we are going to put details this summer of the next round table on social media, and it is literally open to every single one of you listening. We want new voices. We want voices that people will recognise, come and be part of that. Jack, thank you for your input over the last couple of months, where we've taken this on a new direction. I really appreciate it, and I really enjoy our catch ups.
Likewise, Matt,
and
it's been
having
great.
a chat about it. So yeah, we'll head off into the summer. You're going skiing in the
Yep.
desert, and
You're going to sit by the beach,
I'm going to sit by the beach.
and we're not going to touch a laptop for 6 weeks.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. Cheers, Jack.
Cheers, Matt.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. This podcast is made possible by our sponsors: Secure Schools. Benchmark, improve, prepare. Reduce cybersecurity risks with expert tools and services built specifically for schools and trusts. Smoothwall, who exists to help keep children safe and thriving in their digital lives by supporting and empowering them and those who care for them in school, at home, and everywhere in between. Take control of your resources. Classroom Bookings is an online room booking system for schools, colleges, charities, and more. Organize your shared resources on your own schedule so users always know what is available and when. And First Pillar. At First Pillar, we provide expert operational and business leadership support for schools, academies, and trusts. Our mission is simple: to help school leaders focus on what matters most, pupils, by ensuring every aspect of school business management runs smoothly, compliantly, and strategically. For more information on the show and our sponsors, visit www.edtechpeople.co.uk.